Kelechi Iheanacho can have my children. So this is my team and how they fared in game week 28. So Nick Pope 2 points, Matt Target 4, got 2 bonus points, got his assist chalked off late on because it was an own goal and Ollie Watkins got the assist, and got the clean sheet chalked off late on because Lascelles scored. John Stones 14 points, scored a goal, got a clean sheet, took 2 bonus points. Cancelo took all 3 bonus points and a clean sheet and an assist. Good right there. Traore, the poor guy, he ran into an advertising board and hurt his rib. He looked in a lot of pain and got taken off after 20 minutes in that game. Bruno Fernandes blanked, disappointing. Rafinha blanked, disappointing. Salah blanked, disappointing. Gundogan just sat on the substitute bench on his little chairs at Craven Cottage and just watched Man City win another game. But don't worry, Dallas will come on for him, which is 6 points, and that's quite nice there. So I was kind of glad Gundogan didn't come on in the end, because he would have had to score to make any worthwhile of him coming on. And then Harry Kane, my captain blank. Disappointing. And then Kelechi Iheanacho, or should I say King Kelechi Iheanacho now. 5 goals in his last 3 games. He's in brilliant form at the moment. And yes, his next fixtures are tough, but I'm just going to keep him anyway. Why would you drop him now? And his ownership's going to be gradually going up after those recent performances, I reckon, before the game week deadline. Even though he doesn't play, I reckon it'll still go up. Because he's cheap as well, so you can just bench him. Anyway, let's get on with the next bit of the video where we discuss good options for blank game week 29. So basically, for game week 29, there is only 4 fixtures. That's why it is a blank game week. So you've got Fulham versus Leeds, Aston Villa versus Tottenham, West Ham versus Arsenal, and Brighton versus Newcastle. Now let's run through some options and some good differential and non-differential options for the upcoming game week. So the first option on the list is Leeds keeper Illan Meslier. So he only costs 4.6 million, so he is a budget enabler, and you can bring him in as a second choice keeper. So after game week 29, you can just play your first choice keeper, which could be anyone that you have in your team. And at 6.2% owned, he's owned by 6.2% of the game, which is really low. So he's a differential option as well. And 24 saves in his last 5 games with 2 clean sheets, which is a pretty reasonable return, considering Leeds just bomb everyone forward and literally leave a couple of defenders and the goalkeeper back. Leeds haven't scored too many goals recently, but at the same time they haven't conceded too many. So all looks good there for either Meslier and Leeds. And with Fulham next, Fulham do not score too many goals neither, so you see what I'm trying to say. And then the next option on the list is Leeds winger, left winger, right winger, Rafinha. He plays on both sides. So he costs 5.5 million and is only owned by 12.6% of the game, which is reasonable to say the least. 1 goal in his last 5 games is a bit disappointing, so he's gone off form a little bit recently. But Fulham, they're not the best defensively. Yes, they have kept a few clean sheets here and there. And against Man City, they were doing well up until the second half when they kind of threw it away. But other than that, they're a pretty good defensive side. But Leeds, on their day, can tear apart anyone with their goals. And then the final option of the Leeds options is Stuart Dallas. So he has played defence this year and in midfield. So he can play anywhere, really. He's a defender on the game, so he'll get the clean sheet points. But because he plays in midfield, he can get attacking returns too. And at 5.1 million, reasonably priced, 23.1%. So he's owned by quite a lot of the game, but it's understandable, he's a good player. 1 goal and 2 clean sheets in his last 5 games. A reasonable return right there. That 1 goal for I think Rafinha and Dallas was that time I think they played Southampton, where all of my Leeds players scored. Anyway, enough of that. Moving on. The first option on the Fulham list is Ademola Lookman. So 5.1 million is quite high for what he brings you, but in the blank, there aren't really many good Fulham options. He's only owned by 2.8% of the game, and with 1 goal in his last 5 games, it's a reasonable return. And Leeds, like I said, they kept a few clean sheets recently, but they can leave gaps, and Lookman could expose those gaps on the counter-attack or just in general play and score some goals. And then the next option on the list is Ola Aina. So he is a left-back / right-back. I think he plays one of those 2 positions for Fulham. He's managed to get himself 2 clean sheets in his last 5 games. Sadly, no attacking returns. But he's cost 4.5 million. He's peanuts, guys. He's peanuts. And he's only owned by 2.8% of the game as well. So he's really lowly owned, so he'd be a differential option for your team. And now moving on to the Brighton assets. So the first Brighton asset is Lewis Dunk. So he's just come off scoring a goal against Southampton and getting an important win for Brighton at the lower end of the table to try and help them stay up and not get relegated. Anyway, Lewis Dunk costs 4.9 million, which is reasonably priced for what he brings. 7.2%, that's how much he's owned by. Quite high, but not that high considering his recent form. 1 goal in his last 5 games, and 1 clean sheet. I know I said considering his recent form, but before that, Brighton were keeping clean sheets for fun. They've only tailed off a little bit recently, and Lewis Dunk has got a few goals to his name this year as well, so it's like a good option there. Leandre Trossard. So he costs 5.7 million, quite high, and is only by 1.3% of the game, which is really low. And when I say he's 5.7 million, it's quite high for what he brings you, because he only managed to get 1 goal in his last 5 games, but it was the last game against Southampton, and that goal was a good finish from him. And he is a creative player as well. He can run in behind, create chances for Brighton, and could be a good option against Newcastle for the upcoming game week. And the next option for Brighton is Neal Maupay. So 1 assist in his last 5 games for a striker isn't that great, but you know he's pretty much going to start every game. And in the blank, Brighton play Newcastle. Think about this. Newcastle do not score too many goals, so Lewis Dunk's always a good option there, and they can concede a goal here and there as well. So that's why I thought Maupay could be a good option. At 6.1 million, he's quite pricey for what he brings you, but if you're getting a free hit or just whatever, you could just bring him in for the blank, couldn't you? And he's only owned by 3.3% of the game, so he's lowly owned as well. What more do you want from a Brighton striker? And now we move on to the Tottenham Villa game. So the only Villa asset I think is worthy is Ollie Watkins, because who knows if Grealish is going to be back. Tottenham will most likely score, so you don't really want any defenders, and Villa midfielders do not score too many goals. So I think Ollie Watkins is a good option right there, and Bertrand Traore is out with a rib injury. You could always bring in El Ghazi though. But anyway, Ollie Watkins costs 6.6 million, so he's reasonably priced for what he brings you. He's owned by 27.2% of the game, which is quite high, but he is a very good player. And I'm surprised if he's not in the England team in the Euros. He's not one of the best England strikers, but he can bring a lot to the team. 3 assists in his last 5 games, decent return there. One of them he scored technically, but it was an own goal, so he got the assist, as I said earlier on in the video. And now the Tottenham assets. So first option is Gareth Bale. He had a poor performance against Arsenal the other day and got substituted, I think it was around 60 minutes, but he's still a good player. He's owned by 10.4% of the game and costs 9.6 million, so he's lowly owned but quite pricey, so you expect him to at least get a goal return in the blank against Villa. They are a good defensive team, though, Villa, but I can't see Tottenham not scoring. 6 goals and 3 assists in his last 5 games. That is a stupid return. That's stupidly good. So 1 off game against Arsenal, I think he should be bounced. I think he should bounce back against Villa and get some more goals and assists for your fantasy team, but who knows, because the game is not played on paper. And then, of course, everyone knows Harry Kane is always a good option because he scores loads of goals. He's owned by 41.1% of the game, so it's quite high, and at 11.4 million, that is very high as well in price and ownership, but 4 goals and 2 assists in his last 5 games. Hit the post against Arsenal. I think there was another chance where he scored, but he was offside, so it's not like he had a crap game and was useless. So he's there. Now we move on to the West Ham Arsenal game. So first option on the list is Jesse Lingard. So he's come on loan from Man United and has took the Premier League by storm at West Ham, managing 2 assists and 2 goals in his last 5 matches. And he costs 6.1 million, which is cheap for what he brings you. And he's only owned by 9.4% of the game, so he's relatively low owned as well. So there's a good option right there. And the next option on the list is a pretty obvious one, is West Ham's main and only striker, Mikel Antonio. So he's got 2 goals in his last 5 games, a reasonable return right there. He's owned by 13.3% of the game, so higher than Lingard, but not much higher, and still in that sort of differential range. Of course, because he's been injured, his ownership has dropped in recent weeks. He costs 6.6 million, so he doesn't cost too much as well, so he's reasonably priced for what he brings you, so he's another good option right there. Now we move on to the Arsenal assets. So you've got Martin Odegaard. He costs 5.9 million, which is reasonably priced for what he brings you. He's only owned by 0.9% of the game and has managed to get himself 1 goal in his last 5 games, which was against Spurs last week when he was pretty good. So he's lowly owned, cheap, just come off a goal against Tottenham. Will he start though? It could be Smith Rowe, but I think they both started the other day as well. So he looks like a good option for the upcoming game week. And then the final option of the video is Arsenal's left-back Kieran Tierney. Whenever I watch Arsenal, this lad seems to run the game from left-back and is a brilliant fullback in the Premier League and for Scotland. So he costs 5.2 million, so he's reasonably priced, and he's owned by 5.3% of the game, so he's a differential option, just like Odegaard. He has only managed 1 assist in his last 5 games, but he is a very good player when I watch him, and you feel like he could get an assist or a goal or something every game, nearly the way he plays. So that's really all the options there, guys, for blank Game Week 29. Any questions or queries, put them in the comment section below and I'll be sure to answer them. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.